Channel Vision Magazine webinar featuring our good friends Quest Technology Management. It's part 6 of a 6-part sales boot camp. In this presentation, we're going to learn how to increase revenue opportunities through assessments. I'm your moderator, Brady Hicks. I'm the managing editor for Channel Vision Magazine. And joining us today, your host for the event, Quest Technology Management Vice President of Sales and Partnerships, Adam Burke. Now, with that said, Adam Burke, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thanks, Brady. Appreciate it. And thanks again for everyone taking time out of your busy schedules. I know holiday season, things coming up, busy time of year for everyone. Really appreciate you making the time and join us today on this as part of this series. This is the sixth part of a 6-part series that we put together. And we put this training package together based on listening to our partners, asking for, hey, can you tell us a little bit about how Quest goes to market, what you guys do, different focus areas, ways we can make, generate more revenue together. So we put this series together. For those of you who have joined previous sessions, this is the same format. We're going to go through kind of the why, the what, and how to execute. We've covered things like complex integrated services, cybersecurity, infrastructure, application development, and other topics as well. We're going to do an additional series next year in Q1. So any feedback, any questions, love the questions. If you have anything that I'm covering today around assessments that you'd like to dig into or get some clarity on, love the questions, love the follow-on comments after these sessions. We put this together as we're trying to build a community of people who understand and approach the market in similar ways and would like to leverage Quest where needed. So this is really built for you, and we're here to help. And so any feedback or questions you have are very, very welcome. Thanks again for joining. The topic today that we're going to go through is assessments. And Quest has been delivering assessments since really the beginning of our managed services and professional services practices. For folks who know Quest, you know that we've been an organization, been around a little over 40 years. We started out in the value-added reseller product sales world, and we kept moving with the market to help organizations, really just help organizations with their IT. A great way to do that we found was first understanding where our clients were in whatever journey we were helping them execute on. So if it's in infrastructure, if it's in cybersecurity, if it's in different areas, where are they in that process? And then what kind of client are they at that time? So part of our exercise that we've been going through is we're giving a little bit of insight into the way Quest views the marketplace. So I think when we're talking to you guys about our processes, want to make sure you understand our why and how we approach things. So today you're gonna learn kind of where clients might be having challenges and where you can place assessments. We're going to go through a little bit of how we create the value proposition for the different assessments and where they plug in, tactical versus technical. We're going to get into that. And then we're going to get into, what revenue can be generated from these assessments. Where do you start? How does the conversation evolve? Our process, this is, again, our process. It's not necessarily the right one. It's just the one that's been successful for us. And we're constantly addressing it, constantly evolving the process from an assessment standpoint, a workshop, how to engage, when to follow up, when to maybe back off, and understanding what your clients are looking for help with. So a lot of opportunities can be generated from assessments. We truly, truly believe in the process, and that's part of our key culture and how we work with clients. Skills that we're going to go over today is how do we engage with our clients? How do we talk to them about this? How do we position it? And then strategies for implementing it and ways to spark a catalyst or spark a move within a client thinking of you in this way for whatever technology you might be trying to position or understand. Obviously, we're all here. We're all sales folks. We're all business operators. We're trying to grow our business. So how do we take that conversation? How do we take the workshop and transition it into revenue? And then One thing you got to be a little bit comfortable with, you don't have to be an expert in it. Just like everything, you don't have to be an expert in it to bring the right people to the table, but just knowing a little bit about the deliverables that these assessments yield is critical to understanding here. So that's what we're talking about in today's boot camp. So we'll jump right into it. We like to start with the why, a little rip off from Simon Sinek there as far as understanding the why. But there's a lot of different reasons people can leverage assessments, right? Oftentimes, we're always talking cybersecurity, security first and foremost. Understanding where they are from a tactical standpoint, technically, is a great way to enhance client security, but it can also be a planning exercise, right? It could be a planning exercise to get the most out of their existing investment. It can be to improve the performance of what they've already built. A lot of organizations are struggling with understanding what they have in place today and what they can get out of it tomorrow, and then planning on, okay, what do we need to augment that with? Do I need people? Do I need more software? Do I need more services? Do I need to hire a full-time employee? It helps. Assessments and workshops can help your clients understand where they are today. One of the most important things about understanding which direction you want to go is you got to get a good marker in the ground as far as where you are. First thing you're dealing with when you're out in the middle of the wild, if you've ever been lost, you panic decision because you don't know where you are. Assessments can really help organizations understand where they are now in any technology footprint, but whatever building block or vertical they're in, you got to know what you're dealing with now before you can make informed decisions for what's next. Assessments can also help from a cost optimization standpoint, right? We can help evaluate where clients are spending their dollars. We can help understand where they might be able to get more, where they might be able to improve that, maybe where they're paying for the same capability twice. A lot of software overlap these days. A lot of if you've ever learned about the Microsoft suite of services, there's a lot of overlap within those, M3, M5, E5, E3, F1, business standard, business pro, all sorts of different licensing considerations. Microsoft has tons of different capabilities. Just the Microsoft suite alone can generate multiple assessments to help people with their planning and their utilization of how to get the most out of those platforms. So these are a couple of the whys as far as why clients might be looking for help. A big one is also that we're seeing is not necessarily coming from internal to the organization. So an organization trying to be prepared or trying to be proactive in their security posture or trying to get the most efficiency out of their licensing day one, but also it's coming from their clients. So our customers, your customers, they're dealing with regulations that are getting pushed down on them from organizations that maybe support the Department of Defense or government contracts or healthcare or financial services. There are regulations that are coming down, and sometimes clients need help assessing and understanding where those gaps are that are being enforced on them from their clients. So that could be regulations around financial security information, around critical data for healthcare. How are these things being accessed? There's a million different acronyms out there. Law enforcement, needs to be CJIS compliant, ITAR compliance within Department of Defense and the international arms treaties and things like that. There's a million different acronyms out there. Majority of them, I'm probably going to tick off CISOs around the world right now. The majority of them point back to the NIST standards. So they're all kind of different flavors of the same story. But helping organizations understand where that compliance is or where they currently are within that compliance framework is a big driver of assessments as well. So these are a little bit of the why and kind of the drivers as far as why people would even be open to going through an assessment. Now, we mentioned a little bit around, the strategy of where clients are. Every client we have, this is a little inside baseball on how Quest sees the world. So bear with me, but this is how we've grown up, and this is what we've learned, and this is what's worked for us. Relationships are king, of course, and staying in contact with your clients and going through the assessment process builds upon or can establish high quality relationships. But not every assessment, I think we have 30 and counting now. Um, Not every assessment is appropriate for every customer at any given time. Now, on the right-hand side of your screen here, you're going to see basically the assessments are keeping you connected, and you're going to see 4 different types of customers. Now, every single one of our customers, every single one of your customers goes through this cycle at some point in time in their existence, right? Every single customer has gone through a growth initiative. Rapid fire, we're moving, we're scaling, we're going. I need this, I need that. You're taking the orders, you're helping them grow, you're helping them get there, you're placing the bodies. They're in growth mode, right? So that's a hyper growth type of a situation, and they might need a couple different types of assessments. You have even keel clients, established relationships. They got their processes in place. They have procurement. They have strategic sourcing. They have people in there who know how to buy, when to buy. They know the game as far as getting the best negotiated rate at the end of the year based on the software provider or the hardware providers, end of year forecast and how they're reporting to the street. They're even keel. They got a process. They go through the PO creation. Maybe they take a couple training sessions. Maybe they do some budget planning. Right now, we're coming up the end of budget planning cycle for 2024. We all have even keel customers who have, they forecast what they're going to spend 2 quarters out. It's a very defined process. It's there. It's known. It's rolling. On the far right there, you got overconfident. Now, could be kind of an uncomfortable thing to acknowledge, but there are clients out there that maybe they're a little bit over their skis. Maybe they think they have things squared away. Maybe they are a little bit overconfident in their capabilities, in their positioning, or they took a lot of vendor training and they believe that the slides that the vendor told them were going to, be capable of is maybe they're taking some roadmap capabilities from that software and assuming those roadmap capabilities are executable right now. Don't know what it is, but every client, and we all do it ourselves, we all flow through these zones as well. I'm definitely one who can fall into the overconfident trap. Just asking in my long-term relationships or my wife. Definitely overconfident is a situation that you can get into, and all of our clients get into that zone as well. And then the last zone, right, is when a client's in trouble and they know they're in trouble, right? They've lost key personnel, they've gone through a breach, they've had an issue, they had someone that left their firm that had critical data, they've lost control of something. Trouble is a type of account that every account we're dealing with at any time can fall into any of these zones. You can talk to them one day and they're even keel. The next day, something's gone horribly wrong and they're in trouble, and maybe they need an assessment workshop or remediation ASAP. It happens all the time. So this is how we see clients. They're in one or two or multiple of these zones at any given time in any given vertical. So kind of a 4D chess here. You got multiple types of customers, you got multiple service verticals, and then how do we start the conversation with those different types of customers and those different verticals where we can all maybe launch into a discussion. The types of assessments that we offer are different in nature, and they apply to these clients in different ways. A overconfident or even keel customer may not be very interested in a tactical conversation. They may not be very interested in a specific technology. Hey, like maybe you want to review your firewall logs, or maybe you want to review something that's very tactical and focused on a specific technology. They may not need that. A growth organization, organization that's high growth, maybe isn't looking to go through a transformational exercise. They're just trying to keep up with the orders coming in from their clients and make sure that they have the capacity to deal with it, right? So they might really need a tactical or tuning exercise. They're growing super fast and they need some help with the tactical operations of building out reserve instances in the cloud, or making sure that their operational environment is secure, or just make sure this stuff's patched, make sure it's operational. We'll figure out the policies later, right? Someone in growth might not be interested in a business and process focused assessment or workshop. They might not be ready to have that conversation. Or, someone in the overconfident mode might not be ready for a risk management conversation. They might love to have the transformational exercise conversation. They might they might fancy themselves a, um, what's the fun marketing term people put in their bios? Thought leader. They might fancy themselves a thought leader, and they might, appreciate a transformational exercise conversation around, hey, what's coming next? What's out there on the forefront? What's the bleeding edge? Let's talk about it. That could be a good thing for an organization that thinks very highly of themselves. Trouble can be tactical, right? Tactical, tuning, and technology focused. They might not be ready to have like, hey, I'm in trouble right now. I don't want to have a business process conversation. So this is how we address it. This is how we assess what people are up to. And this is how we kind of evaluate what are the appropriate assessments to plug into what opportunity. So we have a lot of assessments. Like I said, we've been doing this for, coming up on, gosh, it'll almost be 25 years. The first organization that we started doing assessments with was a regional bank in the Central Valley of California. They had acquired a lot of network infrastructure. I believe it was some Cisco tools. And their network person decided to take another job somewhere else. So they needed help assessing what they had bought, what they already had in place today, and then they were looking for help understanding how to manage that going forward. So we helped with a tactical network infrastructure assessment, right? This is one of our first assessments we did. It was in 1999. We built out, basically, we inventoried their entire network. We inventoried all of their assets. We worked with them to show them what was overlap, what they had purchased. They had purchased the assets from another VAR. But we offered to come in and help maintain, operate, and support that. And we started out with the assessment. So they were in trouble and they needed a tactical engagement to help them out. So you're going to see two phrases on here. And if you ever go to our website or you ever look at our services, a lot of our workshops, so you're going to see things called workshops or conversations. These are complementary exercises, right? These are things that we see as a value to understand more about our customer, spend some time with them, give them feedback, give them executive summary write-up as far as what our dialogue was, and kind of, go from there. So workshops that are more transformational and business process oriented are things like our cybersecurity workshop, our disaster recovery workshop, risk management, and business continuity. Now, you're going to say, hey, these all kind of have a very similar foundational aspect to them. These are all about really risk, how organizations want to deal with risk. And they're framed in different ways, but it's a conversation with, helping have a tabletop discussion of what they have in place today from a cybersecurity standpoint. What layers do they have in place today? Who's responsible for those different layers? And then in the event there's a gap or in the event there's a breach, what's the plan from a remediation standpoint, right? So we go through, it's a 4 to 6 hour session. It can be on-site or remote. And that we have these cybersecurity conversations. Disaster recovery, we've probably done over 1,000 of these in the last 10 years. Definitely was something that was more prevalent a little while ago. DR isn't as common of a topic, but the disaster of today is the cybersecurity incident, the breach, the ransom, the loss of control of data, and the loss of control of key assets. So we still have disaster recovery conversations. We're not necessarily talking about snap mirroring, NetApp instances or time to recovery or number of backup jobs. That's table stakes. Most people we're helping with that from an operational standpoint, but DR is also a cybersecurity conversation now. And our DR practice and our workshops, very similar to our cybersecurity, goes through, hey, what's the probability of this happening? And then what's the damage to the environment if it does happen? So same as the cybersecurity workshop, 4 to 6 hour session, on-site or remote. Um, Oftentimes for all of these risk conversations, for all of these workshops, we are inviting in, you have to invite in, and for us, it's mandatory for a complimentary session. You have to invite in the business stakeholders. So it can't just be an IT conversation that you'll lose. In our experience, you kind of burn time if the people who are not responsible for the business don't participate in these workshops. So they're not high speeds and feeds, super technical. It's more capabilities. What do you have in place today? Who's responsible for it? We share a little bit about what we're seeing in the industry, and then based on the conversation, we kind of put a write up together on these different threads. Now we have about an 80% transition when we conduct a workshop into a contract or an agreement within the next quarter. So within 3 months after completing a workshop or one of these assessments, we typically transition into revenue generating services. And they can be different depending on the nature of the workshop. So the cybersecurity workshop, obviously, talking around cybersecurity services, things like virtual CISO, consulting, helping out with policy and framework, or helping out with operations can come out of those workshops. Business continuity, this is usually a process focused operation when we're having a business continuity discussion. This is understanding, okay, in the event of an event, who's responsible for recovery, who's responsible for declaring the event in the first place, helping to document all of that at the enterprise level. Business continuity is a fantastic opportunity to really get into the operations of those organizations. Now, those are the transformational business outcome conversations. There are a lot of opportunities in there around tactically getting involved in an account to address kind of a specific pain point that they might be having. So these are general. Security posture assessment is going to go through all things security for that organization and document everything that we're seeing. That's a pretty big lift. Business impact analysis, also a significant assessment of if a breach, if they go down, if they lose connectivity, if they lose an office, if they lose key personnel, how does it affect the business, dollars and cents, what actually happens if they lose that customer portal, if they lose that specific function. You do a full BIA, and that's a significant investment of time as well. The tactically focused ones that we've generated, these can be focused on recovery. These can be focused on security, such as a penetration test or a vulnerability scan. Or we can get tactical down to the command line of specific firewall configurations, right? So we're going to talk a little bit about our cybersecurity checkup program that is a very, very tactical but extremely important type of assessment. But these are tactical and technology focused discussions. The firewall review and assessment is going to be dependent on what technology they have in place and what features that platform has, right? There's a SonicWall, Fortinet, there's PAN, there's Cisco, there's Juniper, there's thousands, hundreds of OEMs out there. That firewall review is going to be very focused on policies and what are the capabilities of their existing platform. Some general things that are tactically focused are around, hey, let's get in there and see if you have existing malware and do an existing scan, right? So if you have a client who went through a breach recently or went through a scare or they got phished and maybe they think they got it contained, but they're not quite 100% sure, a ransomware assessment is a very tactical, down in the weeds. We're going to scan and evaluate that environment for malware and help them do specific threat hunting exercise for malicious code and potential ransomware that exists within the environment. Very, very specific, tactically focused on a specific technology requirement. So it's not transformational. Someone who's if they think they have everything covered, if they think they're good to go, these types of technology focused conversations are not going to necessarily be a good fit. If they're even keeled and you have a trusted relationship with them, and you kind of position these as areas where you can help. Um, these gap assessments. This is for CMMC. Um, this is an example of a gap assessment. You can replace this with any type of regulatory requirement. Um, those assessments can help any customer that's getting kind of pushed down the road of compliance based on their customer drivers. Their customers are saying, "Hey, you need to be compliant within this zone." We can help them assess that and get that put into place. We talked about this last week or the week before, I believe, around application development. App dev, this is a combo, right? These can be a little bit of both, because applications are critical to the business. They're key functions that they have within their actual operating. They're not just protecting the assets. Some of these applications are the actual asset. So if they're open to it and if they're willing to spend some time, the application assessments and the app dev kind of focused ones are fantastic. So some of our largest opportunities in the app dev space started out with a simple database health check or just a simple review of how their database administration was functioning, doing like a query review or just, "Hey, how are you? How's your SQL instance?" Or these always kind of pull us into much larger conversations around the actual application performance. More and more applications within clients' environments are getting tied to others. So there's a lot more federation going on. There's a lot more integration going on. So application security scanning is a very tactical, like, "Hey, tell me more about how you're tying your Microsoft Teams environment, specifically to your CRM or to your call manager, right? Or how are your users, all those users are tied to all those applications. How are you documenting and making sure that your single sign-on or your multi-factor or dual-factor authentication is appropriately allowing people to touch your environment who they are, who they say they are, and they're accessing it from an area you're allowing it to be." So these security scans are very tactical in nature. A lot of organizations, we talked about this during the app dev discussion, are leveraging the agile process, right? They're going through different sprints and iterations. They got scrum masters on board. They got teams. They got that. We can help them. We can bring in some senior level folks who've been doing it for a long time, help them with that assessment if they want to build a practice. We also have a coaching session where we can just hop into their existing teams, bring in someone who can help them with that and document out the process. So, agile is a big part of our app dev space. We're happy to share our knowledge with what we've been doing, and come alongside organizations that are trying to build out their own practice. So happy to do that. We love those types of opportunities. Those are fantastic. And then another one in the application space, a lot of people are dealing with SharePoint transitions from on-prem to Azure or to the Microsoft Cloud environment. SharePoint workflow applications, these are fantastic, helping organizations understand their business process of managing their critical data in-house, right? "Hey, I need this presentation. I need this customer set. I need to update this file. How is that all mapped out? How is that all, wire diagrammed out?" We love doing SharePoint assessments. We love building new SharePoint instances for folks. And all of these things are great catalysts to like, "Hey, let's put a simple assessment in place. Let's talk about it." And then also we have cloud and we have network infrastructure. So network infrastructure, if you're noticing, these are all kind of catalysts to some of the services we've talked about previously. So network infrastructure is tactical in nature. We're going to go in, we're going to review their wireless. We're going to come in there, we're going to do a spectrum analysis, we're going to give them a heat map. We're going to show them, "Hey, where your wireless connectivity is good, where it's not good, and where you can improve it. Here's your heat map. Here's our recommendations on improving it." Same with physical security. How are your doors managed? What kind of facial recognition do you have at your critical access points? What cameras are you using? What video system do you have on-prem or in the cloud? How long are you retaining that data, those images? How are you cataloging it? Do you have eyes on glass 24/7? These are all very tactical. But if someone's thinking about, hey, you know what, our AV system sucks in our conference room and people are coming back to work here. And anytime they try to anytime Bob tries to patch in the team to the conference room, it's always a nightmare and people get pissed and storm out. Audio visual assessments, simplifying those conference rooms, simplifying an AV environment. Um, Very tactical, but extremely beneficial. And anytime we do any of these, wireless, physical, or AV, these always lead to projects. These always lead to managed service agreements. Like I'd say, I haven't ran the numbers in the last 2 quarters, but I'd say well above our 80% for the workshops. These are great entry points. If they trust you to come in and do a wireless review and they get a quality product back, it's pretty much a slam dunk that they're gonna work with you to help out there. So love these network. This is in line with our application development as far as a level of growth. Huge growth area for us right now. Another tactical aspect is the cloud and virtual technology virtualization projects. So helping out with Microsoft 365, like I mentioned earlier, you can spend your entire year just helping organizations assess their Microsoft environment and the security components of that. Active Directory, how people are confirming people are who they say they are, and converging environments. Let's take a look. Let's pop the hood. Let's see what's going on there. And then cloud migration. This is another workshop that is kind of more of this could be great for someone who maybe is a little overconfident, maybe the growth factor. I don't think no one in trouble is going to want to talk about cloud migration. Their hair's on fire. They don't care about the art of the possible right now. They just want to get out of the pain cave. But cloud migration could be the idea of staying close to a client who has a lot of different ideas. They're kind of sparking off in a lot of different directions. This could be a good one to help them roadmap that out and kind of, narrow that path a little bit. So, like I mentioned, we got 30 plus assessments. We love the assessments. We build them out. We always draft an enterprise level executive summary of what was discussed and the roadmap and the risks, and then providing recommendations. So if anyone's got any questions about these assessments, love to chat about them specifically with you anytime. I wanted to get a down in the weeds example of tactical assessments and where we're really seeing great opportunities. And unfortunately, we're seeing some pain as well. So Cybersecurity Checkup is a program that we built around these 7 areas. And the reason we built it around these 7 areas is we run a 24/7 incident response organization. We're averaging between 2 and 3 net new clients in some type of pain in a trouble zone, coming in asking for help remediating their situation every week. It's nasty out there. You hear about the big ones, but there are middle market and SMB clients. They're just going away because they're getting breached and hit. And we're oftentimes seeing the breach or the hit come from negligence in one of these areas or just ignorance. And it's unfortunate, but what we're trying to position in a proactive way is everything in their environment is changing 24/7. None of these technologies is set and forget. Okay, I don't care. I've made it 37 minutes before saying AI. I don't care how much AI or self-healing mumbo jumbo you put in there. It's not going to necessarily work out of the gate. And all of these different platforms, regardless of technology, needs to be monitored, checked up on. Policies need to be updated. Things needs to be managed. And so what we've done is create a very, very simple, tactical, command line level, policy level review of all of these 7 different areas. Okay, so email security flow. A lot of breaches happen from phishing and from organizations, from someone clicking the link. They think they're helping someone out. They think that their bank's contacting them. Whatever it is, email security flow, critical. So we don't care what the platform is. It could be Mimecast, it could be Proofpoint, it could be Microsoft. Doesn't matter. We put together a simple scope. We look at the configuration. We get in there and we make recommendations and we give them a summary of what they have in place today. And we do that for all of this, right? So they can pick one, or they can pick all 7, or they can pick any combination they want. But we highly recommend that organizations take a checkup. It takes about 3 to 5 days per building block here, and we give them a executive summary write-up with simple ways that they can improve. We had one client who went through a breach. 2.5 months before the breach, we were recommending these checkups. Hey, you might really want to take a look at your email security flow and take a look at your patching levels. Do you want any help with your endpoint protection? Do you want to confirm, stomping my foot here, confirm you have off-net immutable copies of your key database for your entire customers? We really, really recommended these. IT director said, no, thanks. 2 weeks later, they got completely owned through an email phish that infected an endpoint that then corrupted their backups. Okay, so it was a catastrophic event. They were held for ransom for over $5 million. We've helped rebuild them over the last month and a half, but their CEO was absolutely livid that they didn't just look at their configuration prior to. It was a simple change that could have prevented this whole thing from happening. So I hate selling on fear, uncertainty, and doubt. That's not necessarily what you want to do, but these are very, very low cost checkups that can be done. We've bundled them extremely simply, right? No one's breaking the bank for $4,500 to review all those different layers of security. If they just want to pick one, it's $750 or $775. So not a huge investment. You get a fantastic write-up. You get acknowledged as far as what you're doing well, what you could improve upon, and then some course of action you can take to improve your situation. It's a no-brainer. We were just talking about this yesterday. We had a board meeting, and this is something that we really want to just kind of shout from the mountains, like, hey, I don't care what the technology is. I eventually care what the technology is, but right now, if your clients have things deployed, there are ways to improve their posture and get the most out of that platform. And the checkups, I don't care who you are or how squared away you think you are, it's really hard to make sure that all these things are tuned and operating effectively all the time. Bringing someone in for a quick checkup to take a look at the command line level is a no-brainer. Hugely beneficial, can save a lot of pain, and something we really truly believe in. So this is something that's available to every partner we have. Anybody who wants to position this or set up a conversation or do a deep dive into what each one of these mean, happy to do that. We do truly believe this can help people avoid the pain of an IR, a rebuild, and all the costs that come from that. Some organizations don't come back. Luckily, the organization we're working with had cybersecurity insurance. Cybersecurity insurance is picking up the bill, but they're well into the 7 figures of pain there. So that's the cybersecurity assessments, incident response, those types of services, you want to avoid them. But assessments, the short hit is it's going to improve your position with your client. It's going to put you in the position of you're here to help, you're here to understand and help them understand where they are right now, so they can navigate effectively. I know everyone, when they hear assessments, when they hear workshops, you kind of get the mental picture of a timeshare terror. Right? You're stuck in a room with some guy who's hard selling you on buying a timeshare that you're never going to be able to sell back. That's not the nature of the assessments. That's not the nature of the workshops. From what we've been successful doing, and I think you could be successful doing it as well, is building that trust, documenting what they have today, and kind of helping them improve incrementally what they can do next. It's not a rip and replace. It's not a, hey, you really got to go with XYZ brand because XYZ brand is the best, and no, it's not that. It's where are you right now? How can you incrementally improve? What are you dealing with from a regulatory standpoint? What are the risks that you're trying to manage to? It's a long-term play. It's a long-term play from an assessment standpoint, and it really does help either expand at a relationship that you already have, and help grow upon that in maybe a new area that you're not supporting yet. Or it's a great beachhead to establish a high quality relationship with a new client. And it takes time. We send out messages about assessments and, hey, we're seeing this, and would you like to discuss this? We send those out every week to folks, just seeing, hey, are you seeing this trend? Would you like to talk about it? It's really a constant communication, but it is going to help grow different aspects of your business that maybe you're not touching right now within your client. It's going to help establish trust, and it's going to help you expand. Obviously, we're all here to help our customers, and part of helping our customers is understanding where they are and where we can add value. The assessments are really gonna help do that, whether it's tactical, transformational, or a little bit of both. So, those are the key takeaways. Really, it's going to help clarify where you're at with your customers, what they're up to, and where they can maybe incrementally improve. It's going to help build that relationship. Whether it's going to expand one that you already have, or it's going to be a great land and expand opportunity to start that dialogue. And it's you got to stay connected. Everything, at least in our opinion of the market, things change very, very quickly. Organizations can go from even keel to trouble. They can go from growth to even keel. They're moving all the time. Nothing in this market is static. Applications are changing all the time. SaaS platforms are changing all the time. Vendors are getting bought. They're getting consolidated. They're moving around. You got to stay connected. Assessments help you stay connected with your customer to really understand where they're at, and then where you can help. So those are the key takeaways that from selling and positioning assessments. Like I said, we have over 30 of them. If anyone's got any questions around specific opportunities or anything you'd like to go through, requests, all the assessments are fully available through our channel partner team. If you have any questions or you want to reach out, this session and the other 5 are going to be posted on our partner portal as just additional resources. We got lots of good resources on the partner portal. So if you want to contact us there, or partners@questsys.com, or any other way from a contacts listed here. So again, thank you very much for your time. I know Brady, I'm not sure if we have any questions or anything we wanted to kind of dive into, but yeah.
Of course, Adam. Thank you so much for that. Really interesting stuff. And thanks again for posting the contact information right on there. To take it back to the beginning, you were talking about how client needs are always changing. Aside from all that you kind of mentioned there, are there any kind of quick tactical tips for how to stay on top of those changing needs when you might not even know that they're happening?
Yeah, that's the big fear, right? And that's the fear that we deal with all the time is, candidly, your customers, and this is going to sound offensive, they're not thinking about you. They're just not. Like they're trying to operate their business. They're trying to maintain their relationships. They're trying to maintain their clients. They're trying to get their kids to soccer practice on time. Like they're not thinking about you. So what we try to do, and what we've been successful, I believe, and we're always trying to improve on it, is staying in contact without inundating them with too much email or too much contact. So we have kind of like 3 or 4 different avenues where we're constantly letting people know that if they need help in anything, we certainly can help. But we've actually just had really good success, not necessarily with like automation or blasting things out, but taking those automation, those emails, those call campaigns and things, and then personalizing them a little bit. Sending a follow-up or just a simple email message around a topic. We call them conversation starters. So if there's a specific topic we want to talk about, like there was an issue with Microsoft Teams a couple months ago, we simplified that into as a simple, 2-sentence email, and had people who were the relationship key stakeholders of accounts just send that simple message out. Hey, would you like to talk about this? We saw this in the marketplace. Would you like to talk about it? If they want to talk about it, they reach back out. If they don't want to talk about it, sometimes no answer is the answer. So um, just communicating and keeping that open conversation going. How are things going? And sometimes you spark that conversation around like that Teams topic, and they say, "No, I don't have that, but I'm dealing with this XYZ issue. Do you have anything there?" There's no silver bullet to it, but having a discipline around constant communication and adding value from a, "Hey, would you like to chat about this?" has worked well for us.
Cool. Talking about assessments, how can an assessment help to identify new revenue streams with the existing clients?
Yes, that's a great question. So it can expose you to other areas that maybe, if you're historically working with them, providing, maybe you're selling them their firewalls, maybe you're selling them their switching or their storage, but you have an assessment around risk management, and they mention that they're having a hard time, with a data classification, or DLP is classic for this. They have a conversation about what they are struggling with in that specific topic. So if you're having a conversation around risk management, or you're having a cybersecurity conversation, oftentimes for the first, I don't know, hour or 2 hours of your conversation, everything's fine, everything's good, everything's going great. They got everything under control. Um, what we found effective is you kind of keep having that dialogue around, where they might be struggling, and those walls slowly come down when they realize you're not there to sell them the next storage array, or you're not there to sell them your specific approach to endpoint protection. Clients will, in our experience in the workshop environment and in the assessment environment, they'll kind of let their guard down a little bit and share some of their trouble and pain point with you, and then you can kind of peel that back a little bit. Um, it's kind of the ability to sense that, and then pivot to it. But they'll share the pain point with you, and then if you have an offering or something that can help them with it, that's a good way to get a new revenue stream.
Okay. What in your opinion, Adam, what's the best way to integrate assessments into technology advisory practice?
I just, start understanding a little bit more about, where, if they're open to an assessment, put it out there. Like just throw it out there, like around the idea of, hey, we have a partner, we have an organization that's, you know, been doing this for a long time. I think they have a practice around SharePoint. Would you like to talk to them and maybe set up an assessment to understand where you are? Um, I love stories. I think stories are some of the best ways to, and this is not earth-shattering, but some of the best ways to communicate ideas to folks. So examples of. One example I love around DR for the day. We used to do DR assess. We called it DR for the day. Um, Went through a 4-hour session with an organization in Texas. They had everything squared away. Everything was squared away. We were just, hey, that's awesome. You guys got all this stuff. You got your learning management system built out. You got your phones replicated. You got your key databases. All this stuff is you're doing great. It was good. They were squared away. In the last 15 minutes, the executives had packed up. Everyone had left. All the lawyers had left, and we're sitting there with the IT director, and we just had one more little conversation around the ability to provide platform as a service for one of our other customers in California. And we basically just kind of gave a little example of, yeah, they were struggling with replicating a NetApp to a NetApp, and they didn't know how to CapEx one. They couldn't get approval for it. So we basically just walked down this path of how we provide a target for them in a data center that they were choosing. And the IT director said, well, wait, so I can work with you guys to provide this technology platform as a service, and I can tell you what data center to go into. No one told us during the workshop, because they were a Texas law firm, and we had put up our map, and we didn't have any data centers in Texas at that time. And we had told them during our DR example, hey, we got a target here in Phoenix, and we got a target here in Atlanta. Um, we were dead in the water because no one told us this, but they didn't want their data to leave Texas. So you never know when that last layer is going to come down. But we, through the assessment process in the workshop, we just said, hey guys, like we would love to understand what you're trying to do. And they decided to say, well, yeah, if you can do that for us, build a target in Texas, we'll replicate our environment from Dallas to Austin. You never know when that's going to happen, but telling those stories as far as like, hey, these assessments, these workshops are really helping organizations with an outcome. We don't have a predefined we don't have a predefined goal necessarily with the assessments, other than we want to help improve their current state. And that, it's really what they put into it and what we can put into it, and that's where folks are gonna get the most out of it. So I just
Okay.
tell stories. Try to tell as many stories as you can.
Well, that makes it very relatable, Adam. You're talking about improving the value. How did the assessments for the technology advisor, how does it enhance their value prop?
Well, their value prop, they're as a technology advisor, and I'm not one. I'm a supplier, obviously, but we have a very similar culture. And I think one of the reasons Quest is very successful with the technology advisor community is our culture is we're here to help our clients get the most out of their technology platforms, right? And get the most out of what the market can demonstrate for them, and can provide for them. Now, I'm a supplier, so I obviously want to talk. I'm going to talk my own book a lot of the times, but the supplier community, the technology advisor community, can leverage the assessment process to understand where their customer is, and that's going to make them very powerful because when they understand where their customer is, even if you're not a database expert, even if you're not an application development expert, or if you've spent your entire life selling switches, servers, or network, and you're now thrust into this application conversation, you now know more about that account than a ton of your than all your competition. If you have an assessment, if you go into an assessment and you get to be a part of that process and learn about that organization, you get to learn about things that everyone else who's outside that room doesn't get to touch. They don't get to see that. They don't get to experience understanding the real pain points that that client's dealing with. And all the layer 9 and 10 stuff, that how they make decisions, how they buy, the relationships between their app team and their infrastructure team and their network team. You get to get exposed to all of that because you're in the soup with them. Um, Extremely powerful for a technology advisor. And if you can, um, it gives you an understanding of where your client's at, and then it's on you to make the most of that as a technology advisor. So
Okay. Real quick, Adam, what sort of questions should you include in an assessment if you want to get the most actionable insight?
well, it depends on the nature of the assessment. So understanding where they are currently. So one example is we can go to our backup conversation, right? Um, you know, are you testing your backups? When's the last time you confirmed your backup was good? Is your backup off net? Is it an immutable copy, meaning it can only be written once? Do you have the ability to monitor specific jobs, right? So around backups, this is very tactical. Endpoint protection is classic. I can't tell you how many times we've done cybersecurity checkups, and these firms it'll be like 500 users, good sized firm, credit union or something, and they got a CISO and they spend all this great money and all this kind of stuff. Half their endpoints are still sitting there, with the latest and greatest. We've all seen the brands for the endpoint protection. It's still in observation mode only. It's not in blocking. It's not enabled for actual, enforcement of all the policies that they spent probably $100,000 to, McKesson or EY or whoever the high paid consultant was that came in there and told them all the way to the couch to eat the cabbage. It's still not in blocking mode, right? So simple stuff like that happens, and it happens all the time, and no one likes to talk about it. So it happens all the time, and you have to ask those questions. And sometimes it can be a little bit awkward because you're kind of questioning, hey, are you doing your job? That could be difficult, you know, but there's a way to do it and there's a way to help them. So patching as an example, when you get more tactical, where are you at in your patching cycles? How do you manage your patching? How do you enforce it if it doesn't happen? What's your schedule like? If you miss it or it's not ready to roll, how do you monitor who's actually accepted? Everyone's working remotely now. How do you monitor who's actually, rebooting their system and coming online to receive the latest patches? How are you enforcing that? Those are all tactical assessment questions. The transformational ones, these are more business process questions. You know, who's responsible for your cybersecurity practice? If something goes wrong, where does the buck stop? Really important. When you're having a DR conversation, who declares the event, right? Who's actually the person who's going to declare that event? Do you have cybersecurity insurance? What do you have in place today? What would you like to see, you know, as a next phase to improve? Do you know who's responsible? Um, it really depends on the nature of the assessment. But like these ones, for example, the cybersecurity checkups, very, 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 very tight statement of work, very, very tight scope that is drafted up that we're attacking very, very specific tactical level questions and providing that specific feedback. This is tactical in the nature of, hey, we're knocking out this specific scope and giving you rules and recommendations back. The workshops are more high level conversational, kind of choose your own adventure dialogue.
Okay, cool. We're running short on time, Adam, but I
Oh
want to
yeah,
try and get these last two in if that's okay.
sure.
Um, how do you convert assessment findings into more concrete revenue generation?
Well, so the assessments are going to tell you where the gaps are, and then
Okay.
the gaps are going to let you know where you can improve it, right? So if you need help with patching, like if they're 6 versions behind and obviously not up on the latest and greatest, we can help you basically position patch management as a service, or a project to get them up to current state. So you can always help from a professional services standpoint. I have not met a customer yet that does not need technical on-call support, which is basically getting someone, an engineer, when and where they are needed. So every assessment usually can transition into a professional services engagement at the minimum, or patch management as a service, replication, DR, backup as a service, all of those building blocks. If you missed it, parlay, if you got, if you're bored with Netflix, because Netflix doesn't come out with anything good, and you much rather listen to Adam Burke talk about IT. Check out the Selling Complex IT Solutions. The building blocks that we have, you'll notice very, very similar to a lot of the assessments that we have. Those can cross-pollinate very easily.
All right. I'm going to make sure to save you to my favorites there, Adam.
Please
One
do.
last question. What's your target company in terms of size? Does a customer need to meet any kind of minimum size thresholds to qualify for a free assessment?
No, great question. So we don't really have, like a minimum size requirement. We do typically Quest is going to be in the medium enterprise space. A couple hundred users to a couple thousand is where the majority of our services are engaged. We do work in the SMB space, right? So we work with smaller regional folks. So a couple $1,000s a month MRC type of spend. We don't typically go below that for monthly reoccurring charges. So if they're not really comfortable, spending a couple $1,000 a month, or at least $5,000 minimum, like we talked about, one-time retainer for the talks agreement, I think on our last episode, that's kind of our minimum entry point. So, but some small firms that are 50 people, they have significant investments with our team.
Okay, great. So that is going to do it for the webinar portion, guys. Adam, thank you so much for the time.
Thank you. And thanks for everyone joining and spending some time. And thanks for all the great questions.
And it was very interactive today. And from all of us at Channel Vision Magazine, for Adam Burke and our friends at Quest Technology Management, thanks for attending. Now, I've been told after last week that I need a closer as legendary as "Have a safe and prosperous day." How can I ever deliver that? So I gave it some thought, and I'm reminded of what sportscaster Ernie Harwell once said. I think goodbyes are sad. I'd much rather say hello. Hello to a new adventure. Take care. Be good to one another.